said goodbye to my friend Lynn in Calgary and headed west and to Edmonton by bus. It was a long trip, but it went pretty quickly, and soon I arrived at my hostel. This is the High Hostel in Edmonton, and first time I've done just a two-lady dorm, but the most exciting thing in this is the lockers. They are the best so far. My bag sits down, room to hang things up. How good is that? But this video isn't just about the High Hostel in Edmonton. It's about my couple of days there, exploring such things as the universities, the bridges, the swimming complex, and even on a funicular. So it was lots of fun, and stick around and I'll share it with you. So good morning. It's a very gloomy cold day here in Edmonton. So I put on my jacket and I'm going to explore Edmonton City, and the first stop was the university, which is just down the road from the hostel. So hopefully it doesn't rain and it warms up. It's very quiet around the university at the moment because it's summer semester break. So they have about 2 months off and everyone goes somewhere where it's sunny. You wouldn't want to stay in Edmonton today. Definitely not all old buildings. There's lots of new buildings and there's actually lots of construction at the moment. So this is the quad. So normally this would be a hive of activity, but vacation time, the place is virtually empty. So I'm not totally just wandering around aimlessly. I have actually downloaded an app with some walking tours, and I've done that for many of the cities that I'm going to be visiting. So this one actually pegged the Rutherford House to come and have a look at, and that's really how I ended up to be at the university. And this is Rutherford House. Rutherford House, then I'm going to have a little tour. It's a private tour by the seams of things for $6. I couldn't say no.
And the records that they would have used would have made out of carbon, so very fragile. If you drop them, they would just break like a plate.
Oh, so made out of carbon, not Bakelite.
This one, yeah,
these ones that
we actually ended up having an accident, and one got, all the sound is internal, so it comes from here. Time in here reading, or if you had a meeting or meeting with a client, they could come into the library here instead of always meeting at Mrs. Rutherford's stove. When the fraternity was here, they made changes. Of course, the time that they were here, they're not gonna live in a house that's from the 1900s, so they made some changes identical to ours, except somehow the middle section of the cabinet folded forward and did something different as well.
And this piece comes right out.
Yeah, it pulls forward.
Interesting light switches, nothing like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's got one for on and one for off. Pieces when you're looking at it from above, essentially. So this is what I was telling you about, the rooms all built around the central staircase. This area...
The guest room is the biggest with an ensuite in the early 1900s. How good is that? And it's a nice, bright and airy room too.
Yes, so we're facing north. Once upon a time, you would have been able to see the legislature, the high-level bridge. The trees weren't this tall, of course. before we were closed for COVID, we did have curtains that looked exactly like this paper, so they might have had to be taken away for repair or that sort of thing.
I was in there for a good hour and a half, and the girl showed me around. I went downstairs as well. There's a basement underneath that you can't recognise as even being in existence from the front, so definitely worth a stop at Rutherford House. Continuing my little explore, hopefully this bridge takes me across to downtown. Legislative building, and I have done a Capitol building tour through here back in 2019. Well, who would have thought I'll end up in the same cafe that I went to 4 years ago. It's the Russian Tea Room. It's iconic to me of Edmonton, and it's the only thing that's opened on long weekends from what I can find. So I'm going to start with a nice warming soup because I think it's about 15 degrees today. So not only is this a tea rooms, but down the back there they also do fortune telling. So it's a very interesting little cafe, and it has a lot of Russian food as well as standard Canadian food. So I've come into the library to get warm, and look at this. Edmonton City Hall. I love the old city halls. Can't say I'm too impressed with this modern structure, but I guess they need a new one. So I think I've come to totally the wrong side of the tracks. It's like Chinatown here, but my walk around Edmonton said come over here and look at some nice churches, so that's what I'm going to do. So sometimes it is definitely worth walking the back streets and exploring. It's an amazing Ukraine church. It's just beautiful. It's not open, but so ornate from the outside. Just around the corner from the Ukraine church, this is the Church of the First Peoples, another very ornate church, and right across the road is the Rima Chapel. Last on my list is the Canadian Orthodox Church. Nothing really fancy about this one, that's for sure. Down the stairs and walk across the Blue Bridge. It was the higher bridge that I walked across this morning from the university. Careful, Dad. Yeah. Good morning from Old Strathcona in Edmonton. So I've got to fill in my day today before I catch the bus tonight. So this is the area where the hostel is, quite busy, but I'm going to go down to the parks to see what I can find. Should be another fun day. So when Edmonton was first settled, it was actually two towns, Strathcona on the south side of the river and Edmonton on the north. They did amalgamate fairly soon after being settled, about 1908, 1910. Always really impressed how quickly you can get from a busy street with lots of shops and lots of people and lots of traffic to a very quiet area in a park, and this is Queen Elizabeth Park between Strathcona and the Saskatchewan River in Edmonton. This is the Saskatoon River, and that's Edmonton downtown over there, and then down towards the end here is the Fairmont Hotel. So all the Fairmont chain of hotels was built by the railways to attract tourists on the newly formed railway line. So I'm going to walk across the low-level bridge across to the other side. This was one of the first bridges across the Saskatoon River, but before it was even finished being built, it actually flooded. The bridge I walked across yesterday was the high-level bridge, and now I understand why it was called the high-level bridge, because that one doesn't flood. There again we've got the Fairmont Hotel, but in front of it is the funicular, which I'm going to go up in. Sure beats walking up the steps. I've got it all to myself. How cool. So slow. Jumping up the steps. Not quite what I expected. I didn't think that there'd be so many sculptures and so few actual plants. It's sort of not the Chinese garden I was anticipating that I'd see when I walked down here. But it's been a great walk, so I don't really mind. So behind me is a temporary dwelling of one of the many street people in this town. Yeah, I think it'll just get worse as I travel further east. But yeah, I've seen numerous people shooting up. I've seen a guy with a hacksaw blatantly cutting the lock off a bike. And I've seen lots of emergency vehicles rescuing people It must be so depressing for these people. I just can't imagine what it would be like constantly helping people who are doing this to themselves. But as they say, we're there for the grace of God, go I. Well, it has been warm this morning, much warmer than yesterday, but just about to cross back over to the south side of the Saskatoon River, and look at those clouds. Well, how about that? There's a trail you can do right across Canada from one side to the other, the Trans-Canada Trail. This is maintained so everybody can move across this amazing country on trails. How cool. That's pretty cool. Place to look up when you're walking across the bridge. I think Edmonton's got it sus. A lot of their rail bridges and their car bridges have actually got a pedestrian walkway underneath, and I don't know whether it was an added on afterwards, but you know, it's just an easy way to walk around, and they didn't have to widen the bridges. I'm back in Queen Elizabeth Park and just going to look at some native artwork. So just come in here for a little bit of a rest. This is the Kinsman Centre, and I think it would keep both Indigo and Asha happy with trampolines and swimming pools. So funny what you find when you're walking around. These guys are learning to be ladder climbing. They're putting them up high. So they don't make it easy in Edmonton. From the hostel I had to catch 2 buses, then I had to walk here probably about 20 minutes, but icing on the cake, there wasn't even a footpath. Like, how funny is this? Like, just as well I give myself plenty of time, because you wouldn't want to be in a hurry. But I'm here now, so I'll go and see what's what and see if the train's on time for me travelling to Winnipeg. Here's my train, number 2. I'm actually catching it at 19:50, so I'm going to have a while to wait. I'd rather wait than rush. My train arrived early, so before I knew it I was on board and heading off to Winnipeg. But more about that in my next video. So thanks for sticking around till the end, and until next time, bye for now.